Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Ninjas podcast.
Yes, we're so happy you're here. I am one of your co-hosts, Holly Emerson.
My name is Bart Rigel.
And in this episode, we are going to be talking about intention groups. We have both just finished reading an amazing book by Lynn McTaggart called The Power of Eight. And we want to share with you what that book is all about, the scientific research that Lynn did behind the intention groups, and what the results of those intention groups were. And I'm sure it's going to blow your mind.
Yeah, it's amazing. You definitely want to stay tuned because if you want to make some significant changes, positive changes in your own life, help someone else. So we'll talk all about that after the break.
Hey, you just turned into the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as podcast, the show that aims to inspire, uplift, and questions everything. And now your hosts, Bart Rigel and Holly Emerson.
So guys, welcome to episode number 9 of Spirit Ninjas podcast. Now, we did have it called the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as Fuck podcast, but we're kind of toying with the idea of just scrapping that spiritual as fuck part and just keeping it Spirit Ninjas.
Yeah, the whole reason we called it spiritual as F is because we wanted to challenge people's thoughts around, having the swear word and along with spirituality. And essentially what we want to talk about is a lot of things that would challenge your beliefs around certain things as well. And so the whole reason behind calling it that was just kind of, you can be spiritual, but you don't have to be stereotyped a certain way. I guess, right?
Yeah, totally. So let us know what you guys think. If you guys like just the simple Spirit Ninjas podcast, or should we keep it as Spiritual as Fuck podcast? I'm not attached to it in either way, to be honest.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. We were also thinking maybe it's just easier for people to find it if it was just called spiritual or Spirit Ninjas podcast versus spiritual as beep, because we have like the different characters to spell out the F word and it gets so complicated. So we thought maybe it would simplify things that way as well. But anyways, let us know what you think. In the meantime, I guess we should, get on with our topic.
Big time. So today we wanted to talk about the power of intention, and specifically the power of group intention. Holly and I have just finished a book. It's called The Power of Eight, and it's a book by Lynn McTaggart, who's one of my favorite authors of all time. And she's talking about how when groups come together and do intentions for one specific common purpose, and we're talking about synchronized. So
the same intention.
Whether that's healing someone, something, whatever that may be, but it's just basically people coming together and it's all synchronized in time, not necessarily space, and the effects that can cause in the external reality. It's a super fascinating topic because, it's not something that's been really investigated so much by mainstream media. However, there's actually a lot of science that backs it up now. There's been experiments that have been done around this topic for decades, how group thought can actually influence outcome in our physical reality. So super, super cool. I'm totally geeking out on this stuff because I'm just like a big dork.
You're really into science and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So don't judge. But it was this kind of thing that helped me transition from the idea that this whole spirituality thing is basically a bunch of bogus BS to now actually believing a lot of this stuff. Not everything, but there's a lot more that's going on that we don't want to necessarily always accept and
believe to be true, really. And I think a lot of us just accept things without even really thinking about it or considering why we might believe a certain thing or hold certain ideas so close to our hearts in a way. But this book was really interesting, and I believe a lot of things when I hear it. I believe that it's possible. And then when I witness it in my own life, that's when I truly believe it. And so Bart and I have actually experimented with this in our own life, not knowing that we were actually experimenting with this. Well, we knew we were experimenting with this, but we just like literally finished reading the book a couple days ago. And it only took us a couple days, but we started doing this before we even read the book. And I never really gave too much thought to group intention. But Bart and I actually, back in, was it April, February, March, April, somewhere in there.
The beginning of the year.
Yeah, the beginning of the year. We were here in Spain and we're like, what are we going to do? We really want to help the world. We really want to help people wake up, help people connect closer with their hearts, so they can create a life that they truly love and feeds their soul. And we just didn't know what that was. And so we decided, okay, let's meditate together, because we're huge on meditation, as you probably know by now. And so we said, let's meditate together. And we'll do this every day with the intention of listening to spirit and the universe to hear the answer of what we are supposed to be doing with our lives and how we can bring this and share it with the world. And so we did this every day for a week, where we would sit for 10, 15 minutes and we would just meditate together with this one common intention. And literally that week, we came up with the idea of Spirit Ninjas.
Yes.
It was so amazing. And we got so excited and so juiced about the idea. We totally forgot to meditate with a common intention together. We still did our own meditations, but we just forgot to continue meditating together on how to unfold Spirit Ninjas. And then we just kind of
got a little bit sidetracked a little bit.
Yeah,
we
totally.
played around with some different topics, different ideas.
Yeah, all with the same goal, but it's like a different vehicle on how to get to that end result goal.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, fast forward now, it's been 6 or 7 months, and, Spirit Ninjas has kind of evolved a little bit here and there, and we weren't really sure how we were going to go about going forward, how we were going to monetize this thing. We tried a few different things that didn't quite work out.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally this past week, we're like, you know what? We need to start doing these group intentions again, like these common intentions on like,
because we were reading the
synchronized.
book and then we were like, we should do this and send the intention to each other.
That's right. And then as soon as we did that, literally the same day, we started getting this like creative flow of ideas of all these things that we needed to do. And not only that, the business itself has like started to grow so much. Like we're now networking with so many more people.
Yeah, this week has just like exploded suddenly with networking.
Yes, it almost felt like the business was a little bit kind of stale and stagnant, and we weren't really sure what to pursue. We were just a little bit unsure. But then as soon as we started doing this, all of a sudden this like rush of creativity and energy started flowing into it again, where now we're so juiced again on where we want to take this and ultimately how we can bring this to the world and influence people and essentially uplift the world.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I personally experienced this week too was just surrendering, because last week I was really trying to understand and trying with my mind to figure everything out and like, what are we going to do, Bart? Maybe we should try this angle, or I need to do writing. I need to do this. And my head was really getting in the way. And then on Sunday, I think it was, I was like, no, I think I just don't even know. And I meditated. And in my meditation, I had this feeling of just like surrendering. And I actually did an Osho card reading as well. And the way the cards were, what I really got was just like stepping out of my own way. And then we started doing this intention piece, this meditation piece with each other. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what it is. Like surrendering to allowing the flow of the universe to come through.
Absolutely, that's
and
huge.
by us doing the intention meditation, sending the intention to each other, it really helped just allow that surrender for me. And I guess I should also say like what our intention was. My intention that I was sending to you was really about, empowering Bart with the ideas and tools and excitement and drive and motivation and inspiration to come up with, our next step in the business. So we can start monetizing the brand Spirit Ninjas in a totally new way. And so it's just kind of funny how it was like sending that, and then
absolutely
it allowed me to surrender. And
yeah, definitely. Spirit Ninjas, ultimately, it's about helping the world in its entirety. We want to help as many people as we possibly can. But in order to do that, we need resources, right? So we have to monetize this somehow order that we continue doing this.
Keep doing it.
Because otherwise, you can't feed many people when, you're starving yourself.
Feed
For
yourself.
sure.
Yeah.
So that was ultimately the intention. And I feel there's like this renewed energy. But let's back it up a little bit and talk a little bit about the book.
Yes.
So with the Power of Eight, this is a continuation of her. This is her third book now, and she talks about on all three books essentially how science is now bridging what spirituality has been saying for a very long time. And these are experiments that are being done in labs across the world. So we're talking about university labs. All the conditions are controlled, and they started small. So they started small, doing things like random number generators, where it's essentially like a digital version of a coin toss. So you toss a coin 1,000,000 times, you're going to get roughly 50% of the time it's heads, 50% of the time it's going to be tails. Well, then they sit a person in front of this machine and they tell them, okay, I want you to make that machine generate more ones than zeros. And sure enough, they're able to skew them in a statistically significant kind of way. So we're talking about there's no other way around it because all the other influences have been taken out of the equation. They control them. There's no electrical, magnetic, interference. They've ruled all that stuff out. So it is in fact this intention that's doing it. So they started with these little things. Then they went on to plants.
Seeds.
Seeds. So they plant a bunch of seeds and then they send an intention to a particular group of seeds, not the control ones, but just one specific ones. And they want them to grow more than the other ones. And sure enough, they do. Simply by a group of people meditating on this plant. Then the experiments got bigger. And all of a sudden, they started looking at peace around the world. So they chose... they did this a number of times, but in this one particular case, they chose somewhere...
Was it in Sri Lanka?
Maybe it was in Sri Lanka, somewhere in Asia. Regardless, there's been a war that's been waged there for like 25 years, and both sides haven't been able to make any kind of progress. Well, during that week, it was like Peace Week in September. It was a number of years ago. They got the most number of people that they could online. So there's like thousands of people meditating at the same time on this one area. And sure enough, what ended up happening was there was major fighting actually during that week of meditation. But subsequently after, the deaths that were like common, that were average, just dropped. And in fact, both sides ended up signing like a ceasefire, and the war was like stopped. It was crazy. Now, we could say that it was coincidence, of course. Yes. I mean, maybe it was. But...
And Lynn says that in her book, because there's so many factors there that you can't control, but it was still very interesting timing.
That's right. Yeah. For an experiment to be proven, 100%, then you have to repeat it the exact same way numerous times. But you can't have the same circumstances. You can't have the same wars. You can't have the same area. You can't have, it's just, unfortunately, it doesn't quite work that way. However, and this is the most exciting part for me, because when I read this, there was bells and ringing, it was, holy crap. What they said was that the people that were doing the intending, so the people that were sending this intention, they got as much of the benefit of that intention as the people actually receiving it.
So they witnessed what they call a boomerang effect. So when they're sending the intention, and the key here too is you don't send the intention hoping for the boomerang effect. It's something that everybody went in from a selfless place, from the because they cared from their heart. And when they did that from the selfless place to give, ironically, their life shifted, whether it was relationships between loved ones and friends shifted, financial change for the better.
Yeah, people got different
healed,
careers.
Yeah, people healed their own physical ailments, whatever it might be. And so that's really interesting too. But I've heard that before.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, I always heard it before. It was always one of those things because I've been interested in spirituality and energy for, since I was a kid. So of course I heard before, but it was just really interesting that these people who were involved in Lynn McTaggart's intention groups actually have documented this.
Yeah.
Thousands of people who she worked with in these, it was documented.
That's the whole exciting part. We're not just talking about like one-off events here and there.
No.
When it's a few people here and there, you could chalk it up to coincidence or some crazy thing like, whatever. But when we're talking about thousands of people that are getting visceral effects, like we're talking about life-changing things that happen to them, that synchronistically it's very hard to explain, that is exciting.
Yeah.
And that is powerful.
Yeah. And so if there's anybody out there who's really sciencey and thinks that this is a bunch of crap, I would recommend reading Lynn's book, The Power of Eight, because she explains everything in there. And she shares a lot of the testimonials. Like a lot of the book is testimonials, is breaking down exactly how the experiments went and how they did their best to ensure to make them as accurate as possible. And so that's what I really liked about her book too. I'm not super sciencey. Like I'll kind of like take somebody's word for it and be like, I think that could totally be possible. But this book totally blows it out of the water.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what I really appreciate about her. And she definitely helped me understand that there's another side that we don't necessarily understand. And now it really brings it full circle because a lot of the things that I've studied for so many years have talked about this thing. I've mentioned on this podcast a number of times that I've been reading but the Course in Miracles, which is like the most life transformative book for me ever. And it talks about how when two people come together with a single intention, that it creates a force that's powerful enough to literally move mountains. So we're not talking about any kind of woo-woo. It's like, move mountains. We hear these, sayings that people say. No, you could actually move mountains with people, like physically change our reality if we actually believed that it was possible and if we had enough people. Now, here's something else that I found really fascinating in that book. It was, so in the original version of the Bible, there's a number of words that have been kind of lost in translation over the years. So there's one, I think it was called hopthodum, is a word that comes up numerous times. And there's another one that comes up is iglesia. So both of these things are essentially how Jesus talks about setting up a church at the beginning. So iglesia, for instance, in Spanish, is a church.
And it was pronounced slightly different.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ecclesia.
Ecclesia, but it's very similar. And the translation to that into other languages is iglesia, which is, like Bart said, church.
That's right.
Yeah.
But so the original meaning of it was actually a congregation of people, so people coming together with one common purpose. And now there's actually some evidence saying that the group of, so the 12 apostles were actually a group of like-minded people that would go together to certain areas to heal people. So they would all, sit together and they would meditate or whatever practice they were doing in order to heal a particular person. So they would all have one common intention to one particular person. And there's stories of Jesus sending them out to different cities around Jerusalem, Galilee, oh boy, and essentially healing people as a group. And that resonated so much with me because it was so much of it was lost in translation. And now we have church as these like big structures. That's not what was originally intended.
I mean, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. It's just asking the question.
Yeah. If it resonates with you, great.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, great. But for me, it totally made sense.
There's parallels there, which I don't think you can totally ignore. And I think it's worth considering.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you start looking at all the evidence, throughout the ages and all the books that, that have been written about this kind of topic. And now we're starting to understand more of how it works. That the power of this group intention is so powerful. And I love that fact that when we're being selfless, when we're intending to help someone else, when we want to uplift someone else, that we're in fact uplifting ourselves. Like, what an amazing way to change the world.
I think the other thing too is just there's that, but it's also just like the compassion for your fellow man.
Yeah.
Like, let's come together and help each other. Why won't we do that? Why haven't we been doing that?
Yeah.
We need to do more of that. Like, that's what I really loved about this, reading about this. It's just like helping each other heal so we can all be prosperous in life and live the life that we want and feel great and feel full of joy. And I think it's great that, when you do it, there was the results that the intenders received as well. And I think that's what I liked. It was just like community and coming together and supporting and love, compassion.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's interesting because, we, especially in North America, we have this drive to go out and make something of ourselves. And, the world teaches us, Western society teaches us that, it's a dog-eat-dog world, that you have to go out there and be in competition with your friends and with family and with others around. You got to keep up with
the Joneses.
Exactly. There's like this entire thought system that, we just accept because that's just the society that we live in. But it turns out that the only thing that competition does is it just makes it harder.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, like, if you truly look at it, if you succeed, but no one else succeeds, you didn't really succeed. If you made it to the top of your game, but there's still people who are not at the top of their game, you're not at the top of your game. That's kind of how I see it. I'm like, if you lift everybody else up when you're being lifted up, that's when, you can celebrate something. That's success. That's what's true, is when we all rise up together and we all are empowered and have amazing lives and healthy and full of joy and love. That's when we all succeed. One person can't succeed alone. I think we need to do it together. And I think that's what really resonates so much with the intention groups.
Yeah, exactly. And there's something else that I heard a while ago. It was like your income should really be in direct proportion to the number of people that you help uplift. So if you uplift one person, then your income is going to reflect that. When you help uplift 20 people, it's going to reflect that. When you uplift 10,000, all of a sudden, that's when your income starts increasing significantly. Because through that whole process, you're able to lift up even more people, right? And that energy is flowing to you in order to help even more. Because let's be honest, in this world, we do need resources to survive. We need money to pay the bills. For travel, to reach out to new people. So we do need those resources in order to do it for now. There was another study that was done a while ago about happiness. And they basically found that up until about $70,000 in income, income made a difference to your level of happiness. Because when you're making less than that, they found that, people are struggling with debt, with, just the day-to-day paying the bills, trying to figure out how to feed the family. So I totally understand that. When you're concerned about where your next meal is coming from, then of course you're going to be concerned about that. It's going to cause you some stress in life. But they found that above 70,000, it didn't matter if you made 75 or $200 million a year. Your level of happiness was not influenced by income whatsoever. So, it was like this like magic threshold that, money doesn't bring you happiness. That's absolutely right. I mean, if you're struggling for your next meal, of course, it's going to cause some stress if you don't know how to deal with it. But over and above that, I mean, ultimately, what's important to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating stuff.
It is super fascinating. And so it kind of brings us to our next point, and what we are going to create with Spirit Ninjas is intention groups.
Yes.
So we want to put together groups to send intentions to people who need healing. And so we want to ask you guys listening and watching, if you're on YouTube, to send us a comment and connect with us and let us know if you are interested in participating in one of our intention groups.
Yes. Well, at this point, by the time you're listening to this, the intention groups have already been set up and they're likely running. Because we're hoping to start running some of the smaller scale ones in this next few days. Now, what we'll do, of course, is in the resources section of this podcast, we're going to link all those things there so you know how to connect and essentially get involved. And, what we're thinking of doing is we're going to have subjects and specifically people because these experiments and these intention groups, they actually work the best when we're sending good intentions to specific people. And it doesn't matter who they are. It could be people around the world. It could be, people you don't know. It doesn't matter. The common, most important thing is the fact that we're sending it to another human.
Yeah. So we're going to pick, we want people to submit their requests to receive intentions. And then each time we do one of these groups, we will pick somebody who will be the recipient. And it's just basically 10 minutes of sending intention. So it's not a huge time commitment or anything like that. But we'll have that all laid out in the resource section here. So there'll be a link and you can click and get more information and find out how you can be involved and help the world.
Yeah, super, super exciting stuff. So I think that's it for the time being. I think, right? Anything else? Anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think there's anything else. I'm just really excited and I'm looking forward to connecting with everybody who wants to participate. Because I think it's going to change some lives and that's what this is all about. So
definitely. And as always, of course, guys, if you like what you hear, if you want to support us, please subscribe to the podcast and listen to the shows, of course. And if you could leave us a 5-star rating, that would be, of course, appreciated.
And share this podcast too.
Yes, share with your friends. Anything that we can do to help spread the word, it really helps us. And ultimately, it helps you and the people, right? It's like this whole intention group thing, right? The more people you go out and help, it actually ends up boomeranging back into your life and uplifting yourself as well. So help us out. Help us out.
Thank you so much. And we appreciate it. And we'll be back another time with another Spirit Ninjas podcast. Love you guys.
Love you, peeps.
Ciao.
Chat soon. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as Fuck podcast. Make sure to tune in next time for more deep conversations to uplift, inspire, and blow your mind. Spiritual as fuck. Thank you for listening to the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as Fuck podcast. Make sure to tune in next time for more deep conversations to uplift, inspire, and blow your mind. Spiritual as fuck.